Well, good morning.
Good morning.
I am Bill Virginia's Region 6 Chair, John Enzavino. I'd like to welcome you to our first meeting of the new calendar year. Meeting of Monday, January 27th. Sarah, could you call the roll?
Yes, Monty Mason.
Here.
John Enzavino.
Present.
Taryn Bryce Rowland.
Present.
Renee Daniels. Jackie Davis.
Here.
Dan Urquhart.
On Zoom here.
Val Folds.
Val, can you say here? Here's just for the record, Val gone.
Vernon Green Jr. Dr. Janet Gullickson.
Present.
Donna Hart.
Present.
Lisa Hall.
Present.
Pete Humes.
Present.
Dr. Shannon Kennedy.
Here.
Jenny Matern.
Here.
Kim McClellan. Here. Rob Cortell.
Here on Zoom in the car.
Jeff Sapersky. Lindsay Watson. Dr. Kimberly Young.
Present on Zoom in transit.
We do have an in-person quorum.
Okay. Thank you, Sarah. First item of business is approval of members participating remotely. We have 3 members participating remotely. There's a section in your board packet authorizing that. We need a motion on that, Sarah?
Yes.
Could I have a motion that we allow the members to participate remotely that have been noted in the packet and on screen?
So moved.
Have a motion to approve, and I have a second. You get that, Sarah?
Yes.
All right. Any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, everybody's authorized to participate remotely. And folks, thanks for dialing in today. We need your participation. All right, next item of business is introductions. We have a number of guests and visitors here today that I can see. I know we've got Neil Barber, we've got Billy Gamble and Sharon. Billy's here in person, thankfully. And Shauna Gibson is going to be, I guess, virtual. And I know we have some other folks here, and we'll recognize you at the appropriate time. I want to thank you for coming. I want to thank you for your participation as we're this is a very unusual kind of setting. These chairs are not like this when I went to school. Like a little prison. All right. Next item of business on the agenda is the consent agenda, which includes the minutes of October 21st and their approval. It's October 21st, 2024. Any additions or corrections to the minutes? Do I hear a motion for approval?
So moved.
I have a motion to approve the minutes of October 21, 2024. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you very much. Okay, our first item up is a presentation by Billy Gamble and Shara Gibson on the Go Virginia dashboard. Billy, the floor is yours, as well as Shara on the line there.
There's an issue with the way that the browser on this computer is showing the responsiveness of the dashboard. So I'm going to see if Sarah can pull it up real quick.
Yes.
Because the way it looks on here doesn't give it any justice. Is Sarah on?
She's not.
Do you want us to go to Neil first?
Yeah, can you do that real quick?
Yeah, that's fine.
Thank you.
Neil, are you?
Yeah, I'm ready. Yep.
Okay, we've got Neil Barber. He's going to talk to us about the West Point Planning Grant airport site planning project and give us an update on it. This is a really good project because it incorporates other aspects of some things that Go Virginia has funded. So, Neil, thank you very much. The floor is yours.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. I'm Neil Barber, as he mentioned, and I have helped the town of West Point and the Middle Peninsula Planning District Commission, who is the grantee on this project, to administer it and follow it through, and second, basically to write the application. I would say a pitch hitter. The two primary people on this project, well, actually three, would be John Edwards, who's been the primary advocate for this airport site. He's the town manager, as you know, for the town of West Point. And Louis Lawrence, who's been advocating for the use of the site for a number of marine-related type of industries. And the third key individual was Blair Wilson, who spearheaded all of the technical work that was done as a planning grant. Blair has his own engineering firm. There midway through the project, he went to work for Bay Design, and then recently has left Bay Design, is back there with his own firm. He had done a lot of due diligence work for the previous occupants of the site, ITI International there. Next slide, if you would. This is an ECB grant of $100,000. It was matched by the town's resources. They spent $30,000 to purchase a timber easement on the property that was part of the match, and they put up a cash match of additional about $25,000 there. The purpose of the grant was to raise the Virginia VEDP business ready sites tier level from a tier 2 to a tier 3, which required a significant number of due diligence activities there. Next slide, please. There. Just to give you an orientation of the site, as you can see, the town of West Point is to the east of the site. The Middle Peninsula Regional Airport is to the north, and the project site is to the south, about 348 acres total. The access to this site is a main issue. It is served by International Drive, which is about a mile from the State Route 606, York River Drive, back into the site. That access road is relatively a small 2-lane road on a 50-foot right-of-way that has a bridge that crosses Baker's Creek, which is a 1-lane wooden plank bridge there. So access to the site is one of the main aspects that was important for the analysis of there. So you're approximately, 3 miles to 4-lane Route 33 and about 13 miles to I-64. So it's there. It is the largest zoned industrial property in the Middle Peninsula currently. It was zoned industrial by King and Queen County. It's actually in King and Queen County, not in the town. And King and Queen County zoned it industrial many years ago when the Middle Peninsula Regional Airport Authority was formed there. The property originally was a reliever airport for the Richmond Airport back in World War II. So it has two huge sections of concrete runway, about 5,000 feet runway on it. The previous use was a security training facility operated by ITI there. So the next slide, if you would, please. There. The deliverables on this project included the master plan of development, the preliminary engineering report, and all of the due diligence work that you would normally expect: wetlands delineation, geotechnic, evaluation, soils evaluation, title report, and threatened endangered species, phase 1 environmental assessment. There are some buildings on the site. There were some classroom buildings and a maintenance building, so we did an existing building assessment. The classroom buildings are really not worth saving. The maintenance building, which is basically a shell building, it does have some value for reuse there. They did a hydrologic and hydrographic analysis of Baker's Creek to determine the bridge design there, and that part of it was not was funded through a DCR grant of $23,800 for that. There was an analysis of the bridge itself there, topographic information, and again a site characterization at the end of the project. Next slide. The master plan of development that you heard is shown on your screen there. Shows 7 potential industrial sites along the old airport runways. The ones on towards the river are butting up against the runway, so that there potentially could be a taxiway for aircraft that needed to use one or more of those sites. So there were 7 sites with a maximum build out of about 350,000 square foot buildings. That was not feasible to extend sewer there, so it is proposed that there be on-site sewage serving the buildings. We did find some suitable soils for that. The water system, it would be internal to the site, which provides fire protection to that, to the development. The major expense for the development of there is the reconstruction of Industrial Drive, then the replacement of Baker's Bridge there. The site does have potential access to the York River, and another project that the Planning District Commission is working on is a working waterfronts project, possible funding. And this has been identified as a potential for one of the working waterfront sites, which is a potential another funding source for the river access, which is not shown on the site. Actually, it would be on the eastern portion that you see there. Next slide, please. There. The budget from the preliminary engineering report basically is about $500,000 for the bridge improvements that would be in replacement, about $2 million for the reconstruction of Industrial Drive, and then the internal infrastructure, the waterworks, and the road improvement and site work would be about $5 million. The water supply and distribution, another $1.5 million. The total development costs at the $9.1 million. So the next steps, which will be next slide, please, is to explore how to go forward with the design of the access road, industrial drive, and the bridge replacement. Those are the two essential elements necessary for the development of the project. So the potential funding sources, the redesign of, or they should say the detailed designs of industrial drive would be from VDOT access road funding, and then potential redevelopment and bridge replacement from the Economic Development Administration. So we've had some preliminary discussions with those funding sources, which Go Virginia has been a part of. So right now, we need to move forward with applications based upon the leadership from the town. So that gives you really much a summary of what the project is and where we are with the future development of the site. I'll be glad to answer any questions that you might have regarding the project.
Any questions for Neil? This is a big deal for the Middle Peninsula. And Neil, this incorporates, there's a company coming in there to the site. I understood that we had previously funded on some of the innovative and creative types of use of dredging sludge and things like that. Is that correct?
We have explored the possibility of that, yes. But their location is pretty much somewhat in the future because of they need river access.
Okay.
To bring the dredge materials into the site. The southernmost portion of the runways were designated as a dredge spoil location, but it's going to be extremely expensive to get the access to the river in order to do that. Again, I'd mentioned the Working Waterfronts project. That project has done a detailed analysis of the costs and the permitting that's necessary to do that. And it would be a significant challenge, let's put it that way.
For you board members who may not be familiar with Working Waterfronts, that is a program where we have in the Middle Peninsula and Northern Neck a lack of access for our working watermen to take their catches and have their catches processed and transported to the markets or to processors. Consequently, the Middle Peninsula Planning District Commission was engaged in a study to identify potential working waterfront sites so that they can improve them so that they will be workable sites. Right now, I think they're just working off the banks more or less in many cases. And so this will be something good for the marine industry or the fishing industry in the Middle Peninsula and hopefully in the Northern Neck as well. This project that Neil's talking about is a big deal. 348 acres of industrial land in the Middle Peninsula is unheard of. That's a big site for the Commonwealth right now as well. Would you not say, Neil? Absolutely. Yep. And to have it certified by the Virginia Economic Development Partnership, that the certification they're working towards really puts West Point, King and Queen, that part of the state in a more competitive position for jobs. And there are very few certified sites in the Middle Peninsula and Northern Neck. So this is something that we have helped get going, and is something which would be beneficial long into the future for the Middle Peninsula. So it's a great project.
Mr. Chairman, so you said this is does this fall under the designation of the mega site regarding the state budget? There's $20 million a year in for the larger projects to make them ready. With the introduced budget now, bump that up to 70, but assuming that won't end up there, are we eligible for this project for some of that $20 million money?
Others probably should speak to that. To my knowledge, it is not eligible for the mega site. While it is a large site, you know, for the Middle Peninsula Northern Neck, it is not a large site when compared to you know, a couple thousand acres in other parts of the state.
Thank you, sir.
Yes.
Who would the end users potentially be? And when would that happen about?
Neil, you want to address that? Did you hear that?
Yes, I did. The development time schedule is contingent basically upon some of the improvements that I mentioned. There could be some use of the sites with a relatively modest expenditures, like redecking of the wood bridge over Baker's Creek. But the amount of development that would support would be very limited because it was only a one-lane bridge with limited structural capacity. So that could support development relatively quickly since the site would be served by on-site wells and on-site septic and sewer system. So right now, the town is desirous of leasing the property, so that is another issue. In terms of the types of businesses that there would be, folks, John had mentioned the marine-related types of activities, small manufacturers, possibility of, you know, the width of the access road is also another limiting factor. So full-scale development would require major funding from various funding sources, including the locality. There are potential for various matching resources from the town, but the magnitude of, you know, a $9 million total project, it'll take a while to put those funding sources together. So full development of I would say in about 10 years would be my time frame, given the challenges that there. With some initial development that could occur in a shorter period of time as 1 to 2 years.
So I'm trying to figure out how to ask this question. I am thinking about the suitability of this site for data centers, given the number that are going up just northwest of this throughout the rest of our region and King George and other areas. So what's the potential for that, and what are the zoning, planning ordinances and sustainability concerns?
Yeah, I think the potential for data centers at this location is not very good in my judgment, and for two reasons. One is the data centers require two elements: large water users and a significant power user. There isn't the power infrastructure to the site that would support a data center.
Okay.
And the water use would come from wells, on-site wells. If you did do that, you'd have to dig a new well of a major capacity, and that the state has limitations for water withdrawals of that magnitude.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure there weren't considerations. I know other counties are finding more creative workarounds for those water limitations, and just making sure that wasn't what we were talking about here. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Any additional questions, comments? Neil, thank you very much.
You're very welcome, sir.
Keep up the good work out there.
I'll try my best. Alrighty.
All right. Thanks, Neil. Mr. Gamble, have you all squared away your technical challenges?
See if you can pull up that link I sent you.
I think I got
it. If not, I can present from this one.
Yeah, I think I didn't know.
I disagree with
So while we're
yeah.
Oh, I see.
I didn't get it.
Oh, you didn't get it?
Mm-mm.
It's up. I'll just.
Okay, I'll share.
All right, so just for whatever reason, the computer here is not presenting like the responsive view that you can see. So like, you know, if you maximized or made the window smaller, it'd be responsive. For whatever reason on this computer, it's not working. So use your imagination. I swear, if you go to your laptop right now, this link looks a lot better. I'll make sure you get that link so we can send it out to everybody. And then
Your display setting.
Excuse me?
What your display setting?
Do you know how to? I'm all ears if somebody can figure it out, but
You don't want me touching that.
Yeah. So I don't want to spend a whole bunch of time kind of getting the weeds, but just I'm only telling you that because this from the user experience, anytime I've looked at it, it looks great. For whatever reason today, I'm presenting to you guys. It's a new computer and it doesn't want to look all that great. So what we're presenting on, and Shara, who's the program manager, sitting over here, Shara had a lot to do with this. She was kind of the main project manager that worked on getting. So we get a whole bunch of data, right? We get the application process. Folks commit to outcomes. We get a contract, and we get a contract on those outcomes, and then, you know, as Sarah works very closely with the subgrantee, does a quarterly reporting. Once a project closes out, they submit what's called a performance closeout report. And that's saying, hey, you know, these are the things that we achieved during this process. And typically, you know, you commit to something, we want to see it's achieved. Sometimes it's, you know, it's underachieved slightly. Not at the end of the day, there's some barriers that happen sometimes. Sometimes they over exceed, and that's always great to see. So
I got it.
Got it. So anyway, these are going to be 97 projects right now that what we call hard close. So basically, the performance closeout report has been submitted, reviewed, accepted. Same thing with the physical closeout report. All right, so it doesn't this look a lot better? Perfect. All right, so this is all the hard work that Shara and Lauren and James Clement did to get this up and ready. So we basically have everything, that all our data feeds through Tableau. So this is a Tableau dashboard. And this is kind of, you know, we're looking at basically every project that closed to date. So 97 projects. And then, you know, you can look at specifically the region. We can filter things by the investment types, so cluster scale, site development, startup, ecosystem, workforce development. Whoops. We can look by targeted industry. So we kind of, what we do at the state level, we have a matrix where we look apples to apples comparison, all the industry clusters that everybody's defined in the growth and diversification plan. So here, if we were interested in just seeing specific industry clusters that were growing as a result of a grant, then we could do that. So why don't I do this? Why don't I just click on 6 right now? Move this over. So you can, right here, you can kind of look at all the outcomes that were committed versus achieved. So that blue is really kind of the average of what was committed. So anything that goes beyond that blue was what was achieved, so it exceeded. If we wanted to go, I say, well, one thing real quick is this was some feedback we got from all the regional staff, is they wanted to make sure that we linked, there was a link to their website. So, you know, for example, if somebody's curious in 6 and they want to reach out, Sarah, Shara, I think we'll need to link this to Region 6's specific webpage. But the idea is that they all go back to here. This is the foundation's link, but we'll make sure that gets corrected. So if I go back here, I can look at all the projects. So we can look at the 9 different projects that have closed. So here, they're all right here. you know, if we're interested in one specific one, why don't we pull up the, let's see, why don't we do the Germana? This is the Germana Community College Engineering and IT program that closed, I think, about 2 years ago, I want to say. So anyway, here you can see the businesses that were served. So in this example, they committed to 179. They far exceeded that. The credentials, again, they committed to 282. And this was all in engineering and cyber and some computer science certifications. So they committed 282. They achieved 463. So, you know, exceeded all their outcomes that they committed to. But this is just an example. You can, you know, share. I don't know if there's anything you want to kind of throw out there.
Yeah, the thing that I would really like to hit home for you all is that this can give you a visualization of how you all have spent your money. What investment areas are you all most heavily investing in, and what opportunities? Also, once Billy navigates back to the main page, if you all are thinking about collaborating with other regions, you can do some data visualization to see how the other regions are investing as well. So for example, if life sciences is something that you all want to get into, you can toggle in the top right corner, you can select life sciences, and then it'll show you all the regions that have invested in some sort of life science project. As Billy mentioned, it's all closed projects for now. We have over 300 funded projects, but to have the most accurate data, we're only using closed projects. As a phase 2, we'll start to add active projects, okay? This is updated manually, just the way how CAMS and Tableau is talking to each other. So we update it manually once a month. So you'll see slowly, it'll start to increase. I think that's all I have for now, Billy. You're doing a great job.
Yeah, so anyway, so as Cheryl was walking through that, I picked up for statewide, I looked at life sciences and biotechnology as an industry cluster. If that was an example of something you guys wanted to kind of look and see what other regions are doing in that space. And then I filtered it even more by workforce development. And so here we can kind of see that there's 8 projects, over $2 million was funded for those specific projects. Sharon, is there a way, does it list the individual projects once we do that filter?
No, we haven't gotten that far yet.
Okay. Is that something that's...
Mm-hmm. We're going to work on that, and project descriptions will be added as well.
Okay.
But if you just go back to Region 6, I would just love for them to look one more time at the total pie chart so they can see for now where their money's going. There you go. So you see that pie chart just kind of gives you a representation of where your investments are going. And then if you hover over the counties, you can see how many projects each locality, I should say, has invested in or participated in, as well as match amounts as well. So it's just a little tool for you guys, a little strategy thing you can use for planning.
So obviously you guys have heavily invested in workforce development. And we see that a lot in many of the regions. You know, it's kind of tilted towards workforce development, but then there might be other regions that might have more inventory for sites, for example. So like regions where he has a good portion in their sites, which is Southside Virginia. So they have probably, I think they're the actually largest region land-wise. So they have quite a bit of inventory.
Other than Region 3, what other regions do you think have a more equal breakdown amongst the 3 investment areas?
I don't know.
I know we're all super heavy in workforce.
Yeah, I'd say most are, but I would say 3 in Southwest Virginia have been kind of putting, so they also they can leverage. So these regions, Southwest Virginia, Southside Virginia, also can leverage
the back money.
tobacco commission money that this region cannot. So they're able to, which is helpful for them because they're able to leverage kind of this federal funds with state funds, and they're able to kind of identifying sites and then, you know, tear them up. And you know, we're seeing some results right now because there was a big announcement. It was a battery manufacturer in the mega site in Pennsylvania County. But now it's 2,000 jobs. So, yeah.
What I will say, I mean, as a program as a whole, about 47–48% of projects are workforce development. And right after that is cluster scale up. So those are the top two categories, but all the regions mostly spend the most in workforce development.
The project that Neil was talking about is, other than a site characterization, which we funded like some pretty large site characterizations. We did one for the entire Middle Peninsula. That's the only site project that we've had where action is being taken. So due diligence up to actual investment, which we've had none of that. That's the only project that we've had open and close. I know we had the one project in the Northern Neck that did not come to fruition. And then we had one with Appahannock, I think actually with the County of Essex, this was years ago, that didn't come to fruition as well. So that's the only one that we've had. I'm sorry.
What project was that?
It was in like
LaGrange Industrial Park.
Yeah, it was
There's life to that project.
So, yeah, well,
We'll be talking about
yeah,
it.
we can talk about it.
So yeah, we gotta make sure we get
Water issues.
property owners on board with that. And that's why I didn't get through last time. Did you mention Richmond County?
Yeah, I was referencing that
Okay,
project.
that was a big one. That
The Northern Neck also had a site study similar to the
That's, yeah, you did. Yep.
yeah. So anyway, we'll send out the link. Go through it. There's stuff that we're still working through that we want to make improve a bit. So maybe providing more details when we do the filters of the projects. But if there's other things you spot, let us know. This is a work in progress, so we want to make sure it's useful for everybody.
We'll send the link out after the meeting.
Any additional questions for Billy?
What's the timeline for project-specific information?
I'm sorry.
Well, what was
Timeline for project-specific information?
So when they do the filters,
Oh, we're gonna try to have it done by the June state board meeting. Once we make improvements, we typically show it to the performance and program performance committee. Is that the right word?
program performance and evaluation committee.
Thank you. So we let them review it first, and then we'll have it ready by the June board meeting.
We don't have, it's not as pretty as this. We don't have the resources, but our site, which is, I would argue, prettier than this because we just redid it. It does have a list of all the projects that we funded.
Also in our annual
Since the
report.
inception of Good Virginia. Yeah.
So I just asked too that there be some easy access to all the applications that have been approved, submitted. Just helpful for us in thinking through what might be a great idea or narrative that might be triggering for us in a positive way, but.
Yeah, sure. We traditionally have not posted the the applications on the website, mainly because there's sometimes the application evolves once it gets submitted. So there's like a feedback loop process and there's some back and forth. So sometimes we're hesitant to just put an application online because it doesn't get the full context of all the stuff that went through by the time the council meeting approved it and by the time the state board approved it. And so we are always, Ian's always asking us for applications. We're more than happy to share them. We can send them to you if you're ever interested. But I think maybe what you're talking about is you want to see like a list of applications. Okay, we can certainly work on that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think what we could also do at a subsequent regional council meeting is go through a recent application. There have been a lot of, Go Virginia's evolved a lot, even in the past 2 years, but especially if you go back to 2017, it's a completely new program. I think that we could maybe go through for each investment area what a really good application looks like, so you have an idea, not just like, if it's a good idea, but what the structure of the application looks like and the things that really go. Those aren't the the weeds that we typically get into with council members, because we want you guys here for your expertise, but that is something that I've found to be helpful, especially as we brought a few new folks onto the council.
Aren't you having a workshop too or something?
We do, yeah. So we do quarterly application information sessions. We go over what, excuse me, the best structure for an application looks like, and we really do kind of get into the weeds there.
And during those meetings, Ian, I guess you're fielding questions about, okay, I'm thinking about doing this. Will this work? Or how should I best address this? So you're actually helping potential applicants structure applications and refine their ideas in those pre-sessions. Is that correct?
It is. Absolutely. And the other thing we're obviously trying to do is to generate projects. What typically happens is that so Sarah does a really good job of going really in depth with what an application looks like, what the reporting process looks like subsequent to approval. And then we, typically if an organization is interested, we have a follow-up call with them after that to really go through their specific idea and how we kind of cater it to Governor Virginia, or come to the conclusion that it's not a fit. Maybe it's a better fit for another state or federal funding source.
Yeah. But I'll just leave it at this. I will say you can view the 9 projects that have closed out. It's just when we do the filters by like targeted industry or by investment area is where it doesn't show up. So, but that's something we'll work through and make sure we get updated by the June board meeting. So you can't see all these projects. These are all the ones that are in there right now for Region 6. You can get into each project and look more detail if you like. Are there any other questions?
You guys do plan to include planning projects also?
No, at this present time, no. We're just trying to satisfy the requirements from the legislature, and plus planning grants are not associated with outcomes.
Yeah, well, so typically they're not. I would say the traditional planning grant that's doing like say a feasibility study is not, but there could be a small scale pilot program. So anytime we have outcomes associated in the contract, then yes, it will be in here. It could be like a smaller, like the West Point site, because we did move that up to a tier 3, I think 340 acres. So something like that would be in there. But if it was just like a sites project where you're doing like prioritization effort, it would not be in here. It would only be if you're kind of committed to outcomes, advancing acres or credentialing folks, things like that.
Excuse me, may I ask a question?
Oh, who do we have there?
Hi, this is Victor Barone with the Essex County EDA. The question I have is on your dashboard for the areas that are blackened or blank, what's required to give you the data so that we can see a more complete diagram?
I think I'm selecting one particular project, and this one particular project it was a Westmoreland Workforce Training Center extension project, and it really focused on the Northern Neck. So you can see these were the participating counties. So you had Northumberland and Westmoreland, but there's other projects that will have different localities that are actively participating in the project. So when I say actively participating, this is applications or projects where they had either cash or in-kind commitments from the local units of government, or they were heavily involved in the project. Say they were serving on an advisory committee to provide input on a study, or they were working with their adjacent localities to help them market a site, for example. So referrals, things like that would count as local participation. So each project, though, has specific counties and cities that are actively participating, and that's what you see here. So this is very much by project. Does that make sense?
So in order to provide data for Richmond County or Essex County, you're looking for inputs from those localities in order to build this out. Is that right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And traditionally, the way the program was designed is as an application is being developed, they really need to be the folks are supposed to be kind of working on behalf of the local units of government and reaching out to those folks. Not everybody can contribute cash or in kind, or sometimes it's just not within their wheelhouse that they, it's not a set of priorities that they want to pursue. But the expectation is every applicant should be working with the localities to figure out if they can actively participate or not. And so, yes, that would happen on the front end. And then once we go to contract, we kind of formalize all those relationships. And then we'll report on it once the project closes, as you see here.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any additional questions? Well, Billy, Sheriff, thank you very much. Appreciate it. And we're looking forward to this kind of being more built out in the future. I think it's a really great resource for us to be able to see what's going on around the state. Okay, moving on the agenda, the executive committee report. Your executive committee met on December the 12th, and we talked about a number of different issues. Two of those follow as action items, so we'll get into those in just a moment. But we did review 2 planning grant applications, which are included in your packet. The first is the Revere Ecological Center. It's a Go Virginia request of $72,100, matched by $36,000, and leveraged by another almost $27,000. And this, Ian, you might want to describe this one. This is kind of an interesting one. It's an ecologically based grant focused on the Rappahannock River and is really taking a look at the Revere Ecological Center, which they're attempting to develop up there in Fredericksburg. And they're trying to get a sense of whether or not this will, what the economic impacts of this would be. So
yeah, well, Chip is also very familiar with this. This effort goes back 2-3 years, so I won't give you all the details of that. But basically, the scope of this project is to assess the viability and the economic impact of establishing an ecological center that would serve as an incubator for water technology, primarily using water sensors as a springboard for the incubator. There are various conversations around mixed use for this space, but basically Revere, they are working with the city. They have a space in the city of Fredericksburg to develop and convert into this. So this is kind of the first step in assessing, the overall economic impact, but then what types of companies we would be able to attract there and what their impact would be in terms of jobs created and contribution to the economy. We see a lot of synergy between, some from a theoretical standpoint, the resiliency project that we were kind of talking about with the West Point site focuses on sea level rise, focuses on the ocean and not the rivers, but there's some crossover in terms of technology. There's an intersection with the Stafford test bed, the Smart Community Test Bed, which we kind of provided the seed money to through Go Virginia. So there's kind of there's this through point between all these areas, some in which are very research laden, but there's an economic impact. There's an incubator, entrepreneurial ecosystem development impact as well. So that's what this initial project would be. They've gotten an RFP they've gotten a response to an RFP, excuse me, from Shimura to get an understanding of what that scope would look like. This project is currently pending with DHCD. We've been working through some issues to try to get it.
So I have a question.
Fire away.
Can you hear me? Yeah, 2 questions. One is, are they talking with VIMS, which obviously does a lot of work in this space and has technology that would be relevant? And number 2, are they talking with VIPSI, which obviously has an interest in anything that would be considered a technology incubator in the Commonwealth?
In regard to VIMS, I remember we asked that question. and they are not, because they're dealing only with the freshwater component of the Rappahannock River. They're not going down into the into the bay. So it's only the freshwater component. Is that the proper recollection of the response to the question we asked?
Yeah, there have been some introductions, not with VIMS, but with Sea Grant. Which can, although it operates out of VIMS, can be very separate. But no, there have not been. I think that right now it's kind of difficult to, without understanding, what the space is going to, after they complete this planning effort, there's a lot of money that's going to have to be invested in this space for it to even get off the ground. So I think that some conversations may be a little premature, including I think conversations with VIMS makes sense because there's a research component. I think conversations with VIPSI may be a little premature in terms of actually getting entrepreneurs into the space.
Well, I think you should probably, actually, I understand where you're coming from and where they are, but I would actually suggest that you all talk to Conaway Haskins from VIPSI, because whether or not we would be funneling people in anytime soon, there are sets of requirements and assistance, and he is very, very knowledgeable, and this is really in his bailiwick. So I really think they should at least brief them on what the plan is, even though it's sort of pie in the sky at the moment. And then the second point about VIMS, of course, Derek is on the board, but I think he's still on the board. The Rappahannock is a major tributary to the Chesapeake Bay, and large pieces of it are considered estuary. So I would think VIMS could potentially have an interest in be of some use in this. So anyway, my 2 cents worth.
Thank you, Rob. Duly noted. Appreciate that. Okay, any additional questions about or comments in conjunction with the Rappahannock Smart River Initiative?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask if Friends to Rappahannock was involved.
Yes. Well, so I can speak from the perspective of FOR as a board member. They've presented to us and spoken to us about it, but it's still in the very early conversations. I don't know that there's not been any kind of conversation about signing.
I think that there's an idea for, Revere is a 50, is a nonprofit. I always forget the one that can't lobby the 3 of the 6, but 3, yeah. So they're 3, I guess. But Revere has their own board. In addition to that, though, and this project is kind of the impetus for this, they are forming a strategy committee that is supposed to be a comprehensive reflection of this water technology economy, and would include what Friends of the Rappahannock, would include potentially events, definitely includes folks like Mike Perello, who we've funded through the Rivers Region Entrepreneurial Ecosystem Council to kind of be the overarching organization for entrepreneurial ecosystem development in the region. So there's this idea to have a strategy committee that guides this project through this initial scope, but long-term that is reflective of this large water technology.
Chip, is there anything else you'd want to kick in on the discussion?
I think you've covered everything. I do remember too, they have a very strong connection with Virginia Tech on the research side as well. So that may be worth mentioning.
That's right. Yeah, they employ at least part-time some students who are still doing research at Tech.
And this is a planning grant. It's not an implementation grant. So there's a lot more information to be gathered, processed, and discussed before they move to the next level. And we will receive periodic updates as to how that's going, and receive a final report, I would assume, as well.
Correct. Yes. And like I said, this project is still pending for approval with DOC. So yes, once it's approved, we will let you guys know.
Okay. Second application that we reviewed was the Cyber Titans VIP project. And just generally, this hopes to prepare high school and college students, transitioning service members and individuals seeking careers in cybersecurity into the workforce. There's a lot of, we provide a lot of training on how to do it, but once you get there, how do you do it is in the field. Is that a fair assessment, Ian?
It is, yeah. So the idea there's going to be some credentialing as part of this, the programming associated with this project, but the core of this project is creating a sustainable internship / work-based learning program specific to the cybersecurity industry. The initial focus of this project, which is a pilot, will be in the greater Fredericksburg area. We're talking with CyberBytes Foundation now about how we extend that to the Neck and Middle Peninsula. Is there an opportunity to work with RCC in doing that, or other entities? What does that look like?
So I think this is a redundancy, and I feel pretty strongly about that. Both UMW and Germanna have VTOP grants, which are really devoted to building these internships. We have some federal grants around internships for cybersecurity. We're pretty solid in this space, and it talks about cooperation, but CyberBytes have never reached out, at least to Germanna, to be cooperative, and I don't know if Rappahannock or not. I think if you want to do this, it would be a better idea, and that, of course, I'm blatantly selfish, I'll say that, to partner with the universities and the colleges who already have infrastructure. They don't even have infrastructure, and I just don't understand, other than self-perpetuation, why this grant would come forward, because we are so heavy in that space right now, and we invest millions, honestly, much of it's state money as well as federal and grant money. So I don't understand the value added with this, because we already have the infrastructure in place. We're doing internships. We have relationships with business and industry. The other thing is, I do not want our business and industry partners to have dozens of people knocking on their door for opportunities when we already have those relationships. I don't know, Dr. Young, if you have anything to add.
I agree. And I think if they were saying we want to do this to create a model for an internship program, so for on the employer side, that would be a different case. But yes, I agree. That's not exactly what they're saying. They're saying that and more, I think.
I'm sorry.
I said, I think they're saying that plus more in this request.
Yeah. I'll defer to you guys. I think that the thrust of the project is to create an internship program.
Well, this is Rob again. Can I throw in a comment?
Yes, please do, Rob.
Yes, which is that I understand the positions of the college people who I can't see as I'm driving, but you know, this district, this Go Virginia 6 is enormous geographically, and you know, not everybody can make a pilgrimage to Germanna or to one of the others in a way that makes sense for them. So if there's a way to disperse these kinds of things geographically across this region, in my view, that's a good idea.
Rob, this is Jan from Germanna. We offer all these services virtually. Nobody has to come to Germanna as a business or as a student to participate. So,
okay, that's great. I'll accept that.
Thank you.
Yeah, well, that application has been forwarded on up to the state level.
That application has been approved.
Has been approved by the state. Okay.
So when they say, just future reference, when they say they're going to partner, nobody verifies that they're going to partner, huh? I mean, part of the purity of an application is when you say, I'm not going to be redundant, that we're going to work with our partners. Do the partners not have to kind of
provide a letter?
But this is just a planning grant.
Didn't VTOP, wasn't internet part of that?
Yeah, VTOP is huge, and that's
well, so
covers
Thank you. And I'd be interested, as a person who also works directly with registered internships and apprenticeships, what your insight would also be. So, yeah, of course, when we have applications come in, folks, we vet them to ensure that they are working with partners who would make sense. So in the case of VTOP did tender a letter of support for this project, as did other organizations. We can't put a threshold on a project that says that if you don't include XYZ, then you cannot be approved for funding.
Well, I had raised this concern previously, and so it's not the first time I've raised this concern. So I mean, it's fine, but it's going to be hard for businesses. We'll end up probably taking the lion's share of the business period because we have the infrastructure in place. And if they want to play, they should play with those who are steadfast and knowledgeable in this area. That's all I'm saying.
I think that's the problem with workforce projects is that there's so many people in it and we all do the same thing. And we intertwine on a daily basis, and that's the problem. There's just so many little buckets of money for workforce development that creates the problem.
Billy?
Yeah, if I could just add something to the conversation. So yeah, we did approve this last week, and a lot of those letters were in there. And VTOP is definitely involved. I would say this is a small scale pilot. And they're also supposed to do a playbook with this, like a strategy around it. So this is an opportunity for them to make sure that they're working with Germanna Community College, they're working with VTOP, they're working with RCC. So we haven't even gone to contract yet. So let's make sure this is the time to make sure we get our ducks in a row. So let's make sure that those folks are working with you, because I agree. We always want the community good, and like even though a nonprofit is an eligible applicant, but it's sometimes a gray area, because I think in this situation, if it worked out and successful, we probably would want to see an institution as the applicant and CyberBytes as the partner.
Okay.
Thanks for that.
Thank you, Billy. Appreciate this. All right, that concludes the executive committee report. We'll move on to new business, and these items fell out of the executive committee. Ian, you have the floor to explain both of these proposals.
Yeah, so they're pretty straightforward. And Kim, I know that this is going to be a shock to the heart, but we're asking that you guys allow us to update the bylaws to combine the executive and the nominating committee. Nominating committee has been kind of a source for recruitment and for approving slates of candidates to the regional council for the whole group to approve. The nominating committee for the past year and a half has been John and Kim. So
good job.
Kim is going to be rolling off the council in April, which we're really sad about. John is on the executive committee, obviously, so it just makes sense to combine these two. And we have a lot of these conversations anyway at the executive committee level.
So what we're looking for here, this is an action item. Is that correct, Sarah?
Yes.
Looking for a motion to amend the bylaws.
I so move.
Rob, thank you very much.
Second.
Yeah, it's a good idea. Good idea. Let's get it over with.
This streamlines the process, just makes it a lot easier. And I think when it was originally set up, it was to get members engaged. And members are engaged in the review of applications, in these meetings. These meetings are hard to get to. I know y'all have real lives and real businesses in many cases, and it's hard to get to a remote location, as Rob said, given the size of this region. And so coming down from Fredericksburg, even to Warsaw, is a challenge. Going from Gloucester up to Warsaw can be a challenge because it takes a good chunk out of your day. So this eliminates that, puts it on the executive committee, and I think it's a welcome change. So we have a motion, we have a second. This will be by voice vote.
Yeah, we don't need a roll.
We don't need a voice vote, okay. All right, all those in favor, any additional discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you very much.
All right, so this is not an action item. It's not an update to the bylaws. We'll have to have additional conversation after this. A lot of Go Virginia regions have an application review committee. Basically, the way that we've done this in the past is we don't have a formal one. We get an application in. We reach out to the council members based on your area of expertise, so site development, workforce development, et cetera. And then we schedule 2 members from the council and the applicant to review the application. We do that at least 2 or 3 times before we present you all with the full application. What we want to do is create an application review committee, probably 5 or 6 folks who would kind of handle that effort up front. That allows for more in-depth scoring and reporting of the application. When we come to you guys, especially, excuse me, with implementation applications, you know, we could have an ask of anywhere from $500,000 to $1 million. That's a really large, complicated application that may exclude some partners or something that could be in there. You know, you guys, I try to like give you a good overview of the meeting in general beforehand. But it becomes really difficult to fully read through some of these applications in such a short amount of time. So the application review committee would mitigate that some. Sarah and Sarah in particular has done a really good job of building out our application process in this software called Good Grants. There's also a function within that automates scoring. So the application committee can go in there and objectively score applications and present that to you guys as well. So it adds a level of objectivity also. We're obviously bringing this, to you guys for the first time. So we don't know, you know, we're kind of asking for volunteers. And then after that, you know, we can have conversations around what that commitment would be like. I can do that in a follow-up email to you guys after this so that you can kind of get an understanding of what that would look like. But that's kind of the general idea around that.
Questions for Ian about the application review committee? Any thoughts?
I may have missed this. These would be board members, not necessarily, for example, my workforce person would be a better reviewer than me, but you're asking for a board subcommittee, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
I think I heard you say you would look at the timing and the kind of how that works afterwards. And I'm thinking about the question I had about for you when we talked about kind of as we get them in, having a regular schedule to be able to commit to it, to know on the second Thursday I have this committee versus kind of them coming in as the applications come in and having to scramble to do it.
Yeah,
I don't know if that's possible, if that's something that would change with the committee or not.
That's part of the thinking behind the committee, that we would be able to have a more structured schedule. It is difficult sometimes to do that. I think we're doing a better job of that now, but the committee really provides that formality that will force us to have that structure so that, you know, this Tuesday of this month, we have an application committee reviewing it.
Would there still be the inclusion of it on an ad hoc basis of folks who have expertise in a specific area, or would it just be site committee members?
Well, that's something that I would, you know, be interested in your all's opinion. I think from our perspective, you know, we would prefer to still have some of these review calls. The application committee, in terms of the scoring and the review of the projects, it really puts the onus on them. But these calls, you know, to your point, they're only 30 minutes to an hour. And we may have, you know, we may have a complicated aquaculture project come in and we don't have folks on the application review committee who have that level of expertise. I think the thing too with the application review committee, I was referencing earlier this idea of, you guys having a full understanding of what the kind of thresholds are for an application, and on a technical level, what a good grant application looks like. That's one thing that once we form the committee, we're going to have kind of an orientation with them so that they understand. Again, we don't always get into those weeds now, but that's what we'll do with the review.
Our focal areas for funding are so broad as part of the strategic plan. Are you thinking about the possibility of trying to identify 6 individuals across those different areas or general areas? Because, if we get 6 tech people and get an aquaculture application, that's going to be kind of disconnect, I think. Or you get an industrial site application and you get everybody from workforce development on the application review committee. So can you think about that as you're thinking about structuring the committee, Ian, and bringing it back to us about a little bit of diversity on the committee?
Sure. Yeah. I think we're going to have to take a varied approach. I think that we try to lead with the industries, but to your point, site development is a totally different thing. And that level of expertise isn't just because you're in the manufacturing industry and you may work out of an industrial site, it doesn't mean you have any expertise in what site development looks like. So I think that we're going to have to take a varied approach in terms of the split between the 3 core investment areas of Go Virginia and our 6 priority industry clusters.
Yeah. And what's your timeline for getting the committee together?
ASAP. So basically, again, we wanted to introduce it to you guys, just a topic of conversation, get some input before we send an email out, kind of giving you an idea of what we think it should look like. So subsequent to this meeting, we'll do that. And then again, it's going to be volunteer. So that's going to be an issue as well. What can we, folks to volunteer and commit to this, and we'll have to think about what that time commitment looks like.
I would say to the board that these application reviews, preliminary reviews, are very important. They help the staff quite a bit. They help the applicant quite a bit, and they flesh out the application so that it's a better application for this board to review. So if Ian or Sarah reach out to you, please take it under serious consideration, or if you feel like you want to volunteer, it's a time commitment, but not a great time commitment, because you get the information beforehand. I've reviewed a lot of applications on behalf of Go Virginia, and it's maybe an hour, hour and a half to review the application, give it some thought. It's about anywhere between half an hour and an hour on the call and asking questions, hearing from the applicant, listening to staff. So please give us serious consideration, because this strengthens our process, gives us better applications, might avoid some of the confusion we've seen with some of the applications that we've had in the past. Okay, so you can expect an email from Ian as soon as possible, or Sarah as soon as possible.
We'll get that moving.
Now, I did want to pull up the timeline just so everybody understood the many steps the applicants go through in rounds. There's 4 implementation or statewide competitive rounds a year, calendar year, and there's 8. We don't even have all of them up there because I just go through as we get to them. There's 8 planning grant rounds because they're on a rolling basis. So just so you understand that that's how the application rounds work. And then you can always go to our website to the apply and see all the steps that the applicants have to go to for planning grants and for implementation.
That's excellent, sir. And that's one of the things that this staff has done very well, is putting together the timing of the applicants for the applicants, when they have to apply and what the various review steps are and how long it will take to get through the process. That wasn't previously well defined. And so it's excellent for all of us to know that, and having that available is great.
2 more things real quick. Yeah, so I'm glad Sarah said that. In terms of schedule, so these, all work on a quarterly basis. We don't have any applications originating out of our region this round, but this would be, you know, in Q1 would be kind of the first formal step to get to the state board. The conversation starts the quarter before. So you have a quarter and a month or two built in when these folks are working with us to try to get these approved. In terms of what we would envision for trying to roll this out, I think it would be too hasty to try to roll it out for the next round, but I think in the summer, in Q3, we would like to try to have the structure for this build and use that round as the kind of the test round.
Any additional thoughts from the board on this topic? Okay. Under old business, and this will continue to be under old business. As you're familiar with the Joint Legislative Audit Review Commission report that was conducted in conjunction with the effectiveness of Go Virginia, there were a number of different recommendations, and the state board is developing a process to better involve all the regional councils in the state and seek input. And that's through creation of a state regional council committee comprised one, as we understand it, one member of each of the Go Virginia regions. Now, I attended the brainstorming session for that back in November. It was discussed at the state board level in December, as I recall. Billy, is that correct?
Yes.
And there's still some information being framed up to formalize what that group would look like, how often they would meet. And so this is just an update. This will be on your agenda to appoint a board member. We think the meetings will be quarterly. Okay.
That's the intention.
That's what the intention is. This isn't approved by the state board yet, is it? Has it?
It was approved at the last meeting.
Yeah, it was. So we'll get some guidance on this soon.
Correct.
Okay. When we get that guidance, we'll share it with the board. Then we can talk about who would like to serve on this committee. As I told Ian, and I think Jeff was involved in this discussion, your vice chair. I'll go if there's nobody else. But I think hearing from a board member at the state level is what they really are looking for. And this will be a wealth of information for sharing of projects, for sharing of information with other board members, and getting, if you will, to use a baseball analogy, a little bit more inside baseball as to what's going on with Go Virginia. So we'll have that on the agenda at hopefully the next meeting, and we will seek a formal candidate to serve on that committee. If no, as I said, if nobody else has the time to do it, wants to do it, your chair will do it. But I think it would be good for a board member to go.
I think the intention was to have it quarterly, for sure have it quarterly. And then I think as much as we can, we obviously would encourage in-person participation when we're going to have those. But even in the event when we have in-person meetings, we'll have hybrid options too. So we understand that sometimes it's going to be difficult for folks from all over the state to attend. So we'll accommodate as best we can.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to move on to application discussion and determinations. This is an action item. This will require a roll call vote, as I recall. Yeah. And we have an application for a statewide competitive application from Region 4 for a minority small business center. And we have Dr. Patrice Perry Rivers, who will be making our presentation. Welcome.
Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me.
Morning.
So I'm going to present from what you have there, but I have
just
some
tell me next
additional notes. Okay. So my name is Dr. Patrice Perry Rivers, and I am faculty director of venture creation at Virginia Commonwealth University, and also a professor of management and entrepreneurship. So I'm really excited to be here, and I wanted to talk with you about the Expanded Minority Small Business Launch Center. You can go to the next slide, that's okay. This is essentially a program that was successful in Region 4, and I'm really excited about the opportunity to expand it across the state. At this point, we have approval from Region 7, Region 5, and Region 4, who's the lead for this application. But what it is an academic research-based pre- and post-launch accelerator program. It's actually based on my dissertation research. And in that literature review, it actually goes over all of the different resources and tools that under-resourced entrepreneurs of any race would need in order for them to succeed. And what I did to my own peril, after I had the chief tenure at Virginia State, is actually try to put those things in practice. And I did it 6 years after we'd had a research-based center, and then we implemented this program, and we implemented it, and then the pandemic came, and I was so concerned about our metrics. But it was a very successful program, and I think in large part due to people considering other options during that period of time. The primary focus of this project is for us to help under-resourced and minority entrepreneurs in Richmond Region 4. That was what we started out doing. We wanted them to start and grow traded sector businesses that would contribute to the Virginia economy. And the way that I thought that we could do that would be to create a system that brings together all of the existing resources that are in the ecosystem and then inject our own strengths as academic institutions. So we wanted to provide the training, the resources, and the network connections that academic research on entrepreneurship indicates minority and other under-resourced entrepreneurs lack to be successful. You go to the next slide. So this goal is to increase the self-employment rate of minorities in Richmond Region 4. That was what it was initially, and ensure that they could most effectively contribute to the Virginia economy. We know that Virginia has a disproportionate number of under-resourced minority groups, and it has large swaths of rural areas. We now have a rural engagement strategy, and a lot of our applicants are of diverse backgrounds, and we in fact had our first cohort for Hopewell Downtown, which was a very diverse cohort, and it was economically disadvantaged groups, and they took advantage of our programming. You could go to the next slide. So when I say the program was successful, it was actually just objectively successful. We were supposed to create 40 new businesses, expand 40 businesses, create 40 jobs, train 300 entrepreneurs, and provide 100 certifications, and deliver 2,500 training hours roughly. But what ended up happening is so many people were enrolling in the program that we ended up helping to create over 240 businesses. I actually have a site that I had our students work on where we actually had them create websites so I could prove that these are real people contacting us who say that they've started these businesses. So we actually have a business directory and trained lots of students how to build a website consequently. Expanding the 968 businesses was based on surveys sent out. And this is what, there are several, there's a core definition that focuses on activities that increase your capacity for market expansion, et cetera, creating a new product or service, things that you would, adding a new location, but expanding 968, creating 244 jobs is a little bit better than one-to-one for the new small businesses that we were creating. Training over 1,211 entrepreneurs. We offer our own fall and spring training academy, and now with the Da Vinci Center, they have shift labs at the Da Vinci Center, and we offer training to them through that as well. But during this initial program, we also worked with VIPC, with the SBA. The federal government came, and had some people to do some webinars for us. We worked with the entrepreneurship support organizations in our region and across the state in order to administer training, and then lots of people were able to take advantage of it. We issued 410 certifications. We partnered with Startup Virginia in the Richmond market, in addition to the certification program that we developed, and we delivered over 28,708 training hours during this program, which is the number of people coming to training based on the number of hours that are delivered. So our Qualtrics data showed that many of these entrepreneurs were enrolled from throughout Virginia, hence indicating that there could be some utility in expanding the program across the state and the regions where we saw representation. Thank you very much. So with those outcomes, then I decided to relocate to Virginia Commonwealth University. There were some real clear synergies that existed there. And in particular, that university would uniquely enable our program expansion in central Richmond and then also statewide. It's Research One University. It has lots of resources and effective infrastructure. It's basically an opportunity university for both economically and socially disadvantaged groups. It's an MSI. It has a leading role in Virginia's higher education system. Lots of first-generation college students. Key role in the state's entrepreneurship ecosystem. And it's located in central Richmond's entrepreneurship hub. Richmond is a very entrepreneurial city. There's lots of energy there and lots of startup activity that's occurring there. And we are still, though, in partnership with VSU, where I started the program, and we have letters of support from Norfolk State, and then a letter from Jody Keenan, who's the director of the SBDC Centers, for her to integrate the SBDC Center at Mary Washington and George Mason into the activities that we're offering. Next slide. So there's some other resources available with the Da Vinci Center. I won't go over that, but there are lots of wonderful things that allow them to kind of go really perfectly now from ideation to commercialization. They have a shelfie program where people can conceive of their idea and get some initial feedback, and then they have to come to my really nerdy and a little bit more complex feasibility analysis. I tell them it's a mini business plan where they end up having to do a profit and loss statement, cost of goods sold worksheet, and really establish their market size, and some of those other technical things. And so we have now a really holistic program, and then we also are working in partnership with so many other partners. And so we can pass entrepreneurs based on their specific level of growth or state, and in determination of whether or not they'd like to go into entrepreneurship and their industry focus to the various entrepreneurship support organizations that exist across the state and ecosystem. Thank you. You can go on to the next. I'm just talking more and more about VCU. We've got a wonderful kind of pipeline of entrepreneurs. I always want to mention that we don't think about it, but Reddit and Dropbox, Facebook, all of these major corporations were started at colleges and universities. And so they're really important contributors and participants. So what our goal here is to identify high potential minority and under-resourced entrepreneurs in line with the NBDA definition on what a minority entrepreneur could be in each of the region's prioritized industries to facilitate their launch and scalability. I've really tried to look at your growth and diversification plan and look at your regional entrepreneurship ecosystem strategies and really see how we could make something that would make sense for these key regions across the East Coast. If you don't mind going to the next slide. And so hence we've focused on some synergies across regions. So manufacturing and advanced manufacturing, information and emerging technologies, which allows us to really take advantage of information, but then also computer science, and then even look at some of the growth that will ideally come from wireless communications and our expansion into our rural areas, and then health, biosciences, and life sciences. It's also crucial for us to allow enrollment in this program for professional, business, and scientific services. This is considered a super sector, but with the BLS, because these provide support services that are crucial to other industries, marketing, research, et cetera. Financial, et cetera. All right, so here's what we do. This is what we did the last time, and there's some new deliverables that we plan to do or offer in this new program. Student faculty-led technical assistance. And so what's so exciting is now they have me teaching all of the entrepreneurship classes offered this semester. For example, all of the introduction to entrepreneurship courses offered at VCU. And that allows me to have all of these wonderful students that can come and help an entrepreneur with a Facebook page, with organizing an Excel spreadsheet. I know it seems so small to some of us, but with completing a business plan, with filling out a business license application, lots of things that these students can do that would reduce the cost of operational launch for a lot of entrepreneurs. We've got certification training, not just ours, but offer about all of these wonderful resources across the various regions that entrepreneurs will be able to take advantage of, co-working space that we have available, not again offered by VCU, but also offered by other partners across the regions. Investor venture capital and bank funding training, I think that was really important. We offered that. A lot of the major corporations and banks would have their, and some of the credit unions would come and offer that for us. Networking events and peer mentorship. One of the things in my dissertation talked about under-resourced entrepreneurs having lower value networks and needing to be engaged in membership and trade organizations. And so by partnering with all of these different ones, we kind of give them this on-ramp to kind of see their potential and connect with people that may be more successful than they are. Innovation entrepreneurship fellowships for college students. Again, I've mentioned earlier how important I think that is. I think it also allows them to conceive of themselves as potential entrepreneurs and get some service learning under their belt. Access to regional chambers of commerce, seed and expansion capital. We were so last time we were able to get some follow-on funding, and so we were able to create this seed and expansion capital fund, and then these pitch competitions where everybody had to go through these really anal. You couldn't participate in the pitch competition unless you completed the business launch feasibility program that I offered, or the one that was offered by Startup Virginia, and then that was your ticket to participate, which allowed us to kind of establish some merit associated with their engagement. But then they had opportunity to get $1,000 or $500 or some computing technology, et cetera. Schedule makerspace access, small business consulting services, and then we have some rural entrepreneurship outreach efforts. So thank you. Go to the next slide. But there are some important new deliverables that I think will help to ensure that this program offers something of value to the entire state. One of the things that we're planning on offering is a resource and enrollment kiosk at partner locations. For example, we have Fairfax and Alexandria and Arlington and Richmond and Fredericksburg and Stafford. And then we have Norfolk and Portsmouth. And then in addition, we have all these wonderful universities. And I do need to reach out to our community colleges to engage you even more in this project. But we'll have this resource and enrollment kiosk that will feature on it a business license navigator. I know that sounds like it's so small, and people can go to all of these municipal websites in order to find out how to get a business license. But the reality is, academic research says that the ease of obtaining a business license, or the difficulty, impacts people's startups. And so it has a real observable impact on startups. And so we want to create a business license navigator. There is a template for which that we've already worked on, and that's already public on the site right now for Region 4, because half of my staff would often say, and a lot of them are just saying, well, where do I fill out the business license? Where's the information? And it was reducing their efficiency and carrying out other tasks. And so we created it. And what we're now going to do is to do a business license navigator for the key regions up and down the East Coast, which I think is so exciting. One of the things that I did with my other hat is work on a study that evaluated Business One Stop for the state of Virginia. And one of the findings in my own research for that study was that we needed to do something here. And I had done the benchmarking research for the other states that had really effective business license navigators. So ideally, this is something on which the state can expand in order to enhance ease of access of obtaining a business license for all of our regions. Yes, ma'am.
I find that very interesting. Is there
Sure.
any way to adapt it so that it can be like on like a local EDA website? Or is it something that the entrepreneur would need to go to your site?
I appreciate that question. That's one of the reasons why we want to have this kiosk. It will be web-based. And so we'll be able to push out this information from the centralized hub at VCU, and then it will be available at that link everywhere where they'd like to have it, where people would like to have it featured. So,
but it'll be tailored for our specific local business license.
Well, what we have, yes, because one of the things that I'll talk about is a municipal advisory board that will get feedback from all of the participating municipalities, and you tell us what things you'd like to highlight on that and direct people to on that landing page. I wish I could show it to you, but I will show it to you after the meeting because I've already created one and it's live right now, but it is completely customizable for each of the municipalities. Yeah, and then the good thing about having students is then I'll have them with regularly scheduled times, follow up with you to see if any website links have changed and if you'd like to feature anything else, because that's been another problem with some of our other resources is that the site links change. Yeah. Yeah, sure. So the other thing that I think is really important that I'd like to see us create is this intra-regional asset map of entrepreneurship resources. We've had a lot of different organizations come up with these private asset maps for our planning purposes, and those offer great utility to us. But if you're an entrepreneur and you're thinking about maybe opening a franchise, and then you might want to open that franchise in Region 4, and as I found on my way up here, that's also close to Region 5. I live in Williamsburg. So I came up a way that took me through New Kent. Then it took me I went through Essex. I went so many different places this morning, only to get back to Route 17, which if I had known, I would have just gone through Yorktown to begin with. But I thought it was great because I got to see how we're all connected and how both Region 5 and Region 4 touch Region 6, which is really interesting. And so if we have this inter-regional asset map, then all of the membership-based organizations that can help you if you're an entrepreneur, I'll have them all listed because they don't see me as a competitor because I'm VCU now. That was one of the reasons why, even when I thought about leaving, I wanted to make sure that the program stayed at a university because that would make it so we'd be able to partner with everyone and they would see us as collaborators and not competitors. So we'll have all of the local municipalities that are participating and links to their resources. We'll have all of the participating entrepreneurship support organizations, state agencies, the link to SPSD resources and the Richmond region, our SBA resources for the state of Virginia, VIPC resources, all of these things will be in one place. And then entrepreneurs will be able to decide how they would like to navigate those resources. You can go to the next slide. And you can tell I'm excited about this. We often don't do a lot of earthly good as researchers. And when I get to do this, I've kind of gotten so excited that it really, I think it can make an actual difference. The other thing that we'd like to do is a statewide entrepreneurship conference and then some regional conferences. When we do the regional conferences, it will allow each region to highlight the very specific resources that exist in that region. And then we'll also have the state participants that are relevant that affect all of them there as well. Then we're going to have a statewide conference. And then the statewide conference will kind of link, it's not a statewide, it's really just the 4 region-wide. It's Region 4, 5, 6, and 7. But at that conference, then everyone will be able to connect. Entrepreneurs will be able to connect. They'll be able to talk to entrepreneurs across regions, find out about resources across regions. And we tend to have at that pitch competition for those that qualify to participate at that point based on what they've completed. Am I going too slowly?
No, you're.
I'm okay. I want to make sure I was not off schedule. The other thing that we are going to have available here is our fall and spring training academy. So everyone can still go and find out about the other training resources that are offered by the other support organizations that exist. And one of the things that you'll see on our site right now is that we have an event list for all of the people that send it to me. So I've been working with Claude AI, which is an alternative to ChatGPT. If you don't find ChatGPT efficient, Claude is amazing. Oh my goodness, excuse me. But what I found out that it was able to do was it was able to automate tasks that are just, they take too much time away if you've got intellectual you've got to have an intellectual dedication to something else. Anyway, I got Claude AI in order for it to scrub all of the SBA's events and formatted in .ics format. And then I was able to upload that to Google. So I'm going to train our students to do that. And so now, instead of it taking weeks and weeks and weeks to get all of these events from all across the state there, we'll be able to do everything within a week. It's so exciting. And then all of the events from across the state will be there not across the state, from regions 4, 5, 6, and 7. And then what we have is we have this entrepreneurship advisory board comprised of leaders of municipalities, government agencies, and business support organizations. I wanted to make sure that it didn't just create a board to just fulfill the local match for those that didn't give us cash, because they'll find out after they've been working with me in the program that they actually have to, there's some work that everyone will have to do, and they're going to have to give me at least the information that we need in order for us to put the information that they would like to see promoted on their on our site about their municipality, and then perhaps participate in the pitch competition, and then also be present at the state conferences where they can highlight what resources they have. Go to the next one. All right, so why this solution? It's a data-driven solution. We have underserved and minority groups all throughout the state of Virginia. They face significant barriers, wealth, resource access. You can even look at the way that there's path dependence that's created based on the way that we put our railroad systems. That's affected the development across our state. And so there are whole regions that are kind of left out of the natural quasi-urban and urban ecosystems. And then you have minority groups also that face significant barriers. And so what that ends up doing is we see this overpopulation of entrepreneurship in lower skilled industries, lower barrier, lower skilled. They're still important. I understand that 99% of businesses in the US are small businesses, and they're very, very, very important. But we want to try to mitigate these high failure rates and do something to ensure that we have long-term success. And that's why we were going over those deliverables, because I think those are long-term deliverables for the state. Thank you. And you can just see that I was being nerdy and getting some data. You don't have to show that. So that's fine. But our project outcomes, I think this is important. I know it seems as if we had amazing outcomes last time, and we were very fortunate to have those outcomes. But I will say that a lot of other entities were disadvantaged by the pandemic. We were advantaged by it. At first, I thought it was just going to destroy us. But from the very beginning, we had to develop online resources. The very beginning, that was all we knew to do. And so now we actually have capacity and a capability to do that more effectively, or as effectively as delivering things in person. These have been scaled to focus on what the unique challenges may be associated with getting specific enterprises in those more limited industries that we have listed, which are professional business services, technology, manufacturing, and health, life, and biosciences. But we have 195 businesses created. We have 30 new ones that we're focusing on creating in your region, expanding 165 businesses. And then, 25 is what our goal is for this region. 230 across the markets for new jobs created, training and certifications delivered, 500 across the markets. And then what we have calculated is a return on investment of 14.64% for the state of Virginia. Okay, so what we've asked for is $1.225 billion to expand this successful program to some of the most populous Go Virginia regions. And then we want to help minority entrepreneurs. Again, I've told you that about our expanded definition of such, which is consistent with the MBDA. And we want to see if we can try to expand some traded sector businesses. And then we have obtained match support from regional corporations, localities, and from entrepreneurship support organizations. So that brings our total budget shifted a little bit, just so you know. But it's roughly very close here to the 1.992 with 642 matching. And, Region 4 is the lead region here. So we've got regional collaboration, and I really believe it's real regional collaboration. It's a stakeholder-driven project. I think we will be able to have significant positive impact on Virginia's most populous regions. We validate this concept through consultation with multiple entities, ESOs, industry experts, regional councils, the universities that are working with us. And then we tried to tailor the program to the regional needs. One of the reasons why we have a more elaborate rural outreach. It was actually already part of what we were doing, because I offered with the MBDA, I offered a rural training academy in the fall of 2023 already anyway. But we have a very specific regional or rural outreach strategy where we have a specific number of engagements and some targets. And we have support from at least 2 municipalities in each region. It's more than that in all in Northern Virginia and in the Richmond region. Thank you. And these are some of our regional partners. This is irrepresentative of everyone. It was just some selected logos, and we've been really fortunate, and everyone has been really legitimately engaged and helpful in this program. If you use the fiduciary, you can skip. This is me just reiterating. I think this really legitimately closes a resource gap. And what it can do is make entrepreneurship top of mind for entrepreneurs across the state, especially through these kiosks, which I have already begun to price and look at and, thought about maintenance for such, and they'd be high quality and attractive, and they would vary in their size depending upon the place where it's going to be and the space that they can allocate to it. Provides essential support to minority and under-resourced entrepreneurs, all of which are always disproportionately impacted by economic downturns, resource deficiency, and they're underrepresented in entrepreneurship. Permanent resources, I think that would be really beneficial to the state of Virginia, connects our entire ecosystem. I think I've said a lot of these things. I think one of the most important things that we haven't talked about though is it's really injecting these valuable resources into the ecosystem from Virginia's public universities. And it's even creating a pipeline in the sense that we have some of the students that can be engaged, and then its deliverables are in line with the strategies for the regions participating. You can skip this one. And so we have a sustainability strategy in place. We're able to get some actual cash in terms of match. But then one of the things I was able to do is with the MBDA, the Virginia MBDA office actually paid us when I was at VSU to offer 2 training sessions because they thought that it was an effective program. And so some of our entrepreneurs got free laptops out of it. And but we have other things that we can do in terms of offering development of provision of research, offering of our training programs, in addition to soliciting funding from private organizations just to support us. And we have, I wanted to go over this. We're ready. We actually have systems in place for comprehensive data tracking, delivery, and reporting. In our last project, we were very purposeful about having a quarterly report wrought with pictures in addition to the data. So it's both qualitative and quantitative in nature. We were using on our back end, Qualtrics and Excel, and this wonderful tool that I like to use now called Zoho Analytics that allows you to analyze the data, and you can see how people are rolling by geography, by various by gender or other characteristics. And then we have a centralized learning management system for on-demand training. We use Canvas. Collaboration with regional partners. We have a vast network of regional partners. We actually have proven success in meeting our targets. And we've got some cost efficiencies through our collaborations. We've learned some efficiencies in our previous partnership that support the delivery of our services, and we understand the best ways or some of the better ways, how about that, to report and use the web to expand our research, even when you have a moderate to limited staff. And then what we are doing is avoiding duplication of efforts by talking to each partner instead of just getting these canned letters. I know they sound as if some of them are redundant, but we talk through, with all of our partners, what they'll offer to ensure that there's no duplication. And that result can be efficient expansion into new markets while maintaining cost effectiveness. I am a strategy professor. So at least that's what my goal is to try to accomplish. You can go to the next one. I think I've done that. Our project team would be the program director, which would be me. I'll have a program assistant. Then we have regional program coordinators. Those are local entrepreneurship support organization led. So I'm not coming to the Maryball, Washington region is saying this is what should be done, that we're working with, an entrepreneurship support organization lead that's here. It's the Virginia Black Chamber in this case, and we make sure that we have, that there's no redundance, and what we're going to offer our program is really comprehensive. And then we're going to enroll her participants in our programming, and then vice versa. We have a fiscal and reporting manager, very specific and focused, and wonderful student workers who have previously demonstrated high level engagement, even last semester at VCU when I was working on this grant application. So in conclusion, I think it expands upon a proven program to support under-resourced entrepreneurs. I think really most importantly, perhaps, is that it facilitates this interconnection of our inter-regional entrepreneurship ecosystem with identification and engagement of key resources and partners. The resources that are being created are owned or are being purchased by a state agency. So these are going to be resources that are state resources. And it's a statewide system for launching and sustaining businesses and prioritized sectors. And then it produces deliverables that are unique, but I think necessary as demonstrated by research. And they address gaps in current ecosystems, and they're linked to our plans. And I think that they can foster entrepreneurship and innovation long term. And so I think as a result of all of these, it represents a legitimate and extraordinary opportunity for your council and the other participating councils to invest in the expansion of the Virginia economy. So thank you so much for having me. And if there are any questions, is that appropriate for me?
Yeah, we have
Is that not good?
we have a few minutes for questions. If you indulge me. Just for you guys, especially some of the new folks on the council. So this is requesting funds from a separate pot of money. It's separate from our per capita funding for the region. It's the competitive fund that's funded per fiscal year over the next 2 fiscal years at about $10.5 million. We have a few competitive projects. As you were saying, the Richmond region would be the lead on this project. The requirements for participating in a competitive project are that we have to have at least 2 participating localities from our region. So the City of Fredericksburg Economic Development Office and Stafford's Economic Development Office have submitted in-kind match forms to verify a match of $5,000 in in-kind support to this project. That is not the full scope of what the envisioned impact would be, but those are the 2 localities that are meaningfully participating. The other requirement for region to participate formally in a statewide project is for regional council approval. So the review process is a little different than when we have an application originating from our region. So I just want to lay that groundwork.
Questions from the board? Comments? As Rob dropped off the call, I'm always expecting.
He was like,
Can you real quick just talk about, you alluded to it a little bit, but how this project is going to be complementary of the project that we approved that's being led by the Virginia Black Chamber of Commerce?
Absolutely. And so we actually went and looked very specifically, at what we would do that would be unique. Is it okay if I read that to you so that you guys understand that, we thought about this? So the Business Accelerator program that VABCC is launching will provide technical assistance to under-resourced entrepreneurs. And there are some other things I understand that they're doing, but that's the primary focus of what they are offering. Our efforts that we intend to implement in partnership with them will augment that with much needed resources and services that they don't offer, like training on investor venture capital and bank funding, hosted regional entrepreneurship networking events, attorney-led intellectual property protection and business formation workshops, student internship opportunities for the entrepreneurs that are participating, memberships to other regional chambers of commerce that people may find valuable to them, and then the facilitation of seed and expansion access through pitch competitions and connections with various funding partners. There are some other things I think that we offer too that they don't offer. And then we have, of course, all of these very specific deliverables that are completely different than what they intend to do with their very more local footprint. But I think that all of the Region 6 entrepreneurs can benefit from having access to resources from across the regions, expands even their own horizon.
Dr. Perry Rivers,
yes, sir.
How do you propose to make those more rural localities that aren't up to speed on economic development aware of this program that you're developing and you'll be pushing out?
Yes, sir. And so one of the things that we did is we developed a rural engagement strategy that includes hiring a rural engagement consultant. And then what I did is I looked at some targets so that we would have at least 8 specific engagements that were for the rural communities. One of the things that I thought of back when I first implemented the program is I wanted to buy a mobile small business law center. And then what I would be able to do is I'd be able to take a van with some of our students down to some of the more, some of the areas that are not proximal to like the centers and then have our students to come down and help them. Hey, find out what their business license requirements are, we'll do it. But we're gonna have 8 specific engagements to reach out to them. I think that one of the things I wanna do is to have like a session where we find a neutral ground in that's closest to the rural areas and those participating regions, like perhaps like this location. And then we can invite them all there, that I can have our students come and work with them and invite the local municipal leaders, the economic development directors or whomever they would send that work for their offices to help with the technical and administrative tasks that would be associated with helping them get on board to entrepreneurship. I don't know how many of them will stick, but we will then be able to direct them into our programming. And then they'll have the additional support that they need to increase the likelihood of their survival post-launch. Is that good? Oh, yes, sir. Okay, thank you.
I'm glad you said this location because many of our students stay in the communities where they are. And the way they do that is through developing businesses. And so the closer you work with the local community college, as well as the business development centers at Mary Washington University, the better, because our students desperately need those resources.
No, I think it's really exciting. I think that this is something that I'll feel like for the rest of my life. I can give it to Virginia, then you guys can expand upon it and then make it what you'd like it to be. I think I would very much like to work with our community colleges. I think they're particularly important in our rural communities. So I'll make a point of that. We'll have a planning meeting after prayerfully approval. And then we'll have all the stakeholders for each region there so we can come up with plans that make sense. And that goes to your question too.
And I think I really like the project. I was glad to see that you have VABCC involved, that you're collaborating from the University of Mary Washington. I know there are some questions and I think needs from our students as well, and how you will engage in this particular region. Yeah. And really wanting to fully wanting our students to also have internship opportunities, working with entrepreneurs in this community, and just curious on how you see that happening. So I know you have entrepreneurs from VCU coming from Richmond. I'm sorry, not entrepreneurs, interns. Are you thinking about students working across these other regions, or
absolutely.
How does that? Okay.
Yeah. And so we've thought it through a little bit better at Norfolk State and at SU and at VCU. But I would like to reach out to someone like yourself who knows your university so that we can figure out a way to integrate everybody that's interested in being engaged in this project.
Okay. Additional questions, comments, observations, Chip?
If I can, Mr. Chair. I didn't see where you have any partnerships with the military installations. 3 of the 4 regions have major military installations with a number of service people who are leaving, and I'm in conversations with some of those. The numbers we hear are service people like to stay where they leave. Sure. If there are opportunities.
I think that we absolutely need to do that. Just to give you perspective, my son Gabriel, who was brought today with us, he's a straight A student in Williamsburg. My ex-husband is a veteran, and so we go to the commissary all the time. And so I understand how important it is. When I was over at VSU, I worked on development of their MBA plan and those sorts of things, and we engage them. I fully intend to engage them through this program. I have to think about a very specific veteran engagement strategy that's different for the institution from which I'm implementing. Because remember, I was Fort Lee. We had an ROTC program, and so I have to think it through. But I fully intend to engage them. Yes.
Okay. All right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. We appreciate your presentation, the proposal. Okay, we need to endorse, if the board so wishes, this proposed application for a regional grant for statewide competitive funds for a minority small business center. Do we have a motion to approve or endorse the application? Kim, is that you? I didn't hear you, Kim.
Sorry.
Thank you. Okay, we have a motion to approve the application or to endorse the application. Is there a second?
A second.
Okay, we have a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. This will be a roll call.
Monty Mason.
Aye.
Johnny Vino.
Aye.
Karen Bryce Rowland.
Aye.
Jackie Davis.
Aye.
Jan Urquhart.
Aye.
Val Folds.
Val?
Val, can you hear us?
Well,
So just give
I guess
us a
I will.
Dr. Gullickson.
Aye.
Donna Hart.
Aye.
Lisa Hull.
Aye.
Pete Humes.
Aye.
Dr. Kennedy.
Aye.
Jenny Matron.
Aye.
Kim McClellan.
Aye.
Rob's dropped off. And Dr. Young.
Aye.
Okay. The endorsement passes. Thank you all very much.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Let's have a wonderful.
We're running a little late, so Ian, you're going to update us with some information items.
Yeah, okay, real quick. So we're doing, talked about this a little bit, but we're doing a major update to our growth and diversification plan this year, which for newer folks, we've talked about this too as part of the orientation process, but that is our strategic plan. We're required by code to do a smaller update and then a larger update. This will be the big one. We have an RFP out for a consultant. Right now, the plan is that closes at the beginning of February. We'll include some folks in scoring that along with scoring the proposals along with staff scores, and then bring that to the executive committee for a selection in mid-February. Plan to get that kicked off into February, probably running through the early fall. Let's see. So the Economic Development Summit, you can see kind of our broad agenda there. The idea here, so last year was the first time we did it. We kind of focused on the core areas for Go Virginia. We're also doing that here, but we want to kind of expand our focus because the idea for this is to be, something that brings together folks who are directly tangentially involved in economic development across the region. So we'll focus on things like tourism and childcare as well. Maybe as part of that conversation, there will be some conversation around affordable housing, but we kind of wanted to expand the horizon a little bit, still with kind of the grounding of Go Virginia. So that'll be on April 22nd at the Jepson Center in Fredericksburg. Similar to last year, we'll have the regional council meeting on April 21st at the Jepson Center as well in the boardroom, and we'll also have a reception at Rebellion. Speaking of Rebellion, you don't know this yet, but at some point in time, seems like 10 years ago, but it was maybe a few months ago, we submitted a slate of candidates to be nominated to the state board. We just received notice last week that Joel Griffin
wonderful
is now a member of the state board.
Good.
So we were the last region to have representation at the state board. We now have that. So sadly, Joel will not be a member of the regional council.
Great.
Just real quick, project pipeline financials. So after the approval of the projects from our last regional council meeting and the planning project, we have the exact number, $624,855.04 left for projects for the rest of the fiscal year. That other planning grant that's pending, will bring us into the 500,000. So I'm not going to do that math off the top of my head right now, but in terms of our project pipeline, we had some discussions about doing some workforce development around data centers. So Amazon has this kind of pretty standard set of data center modules. We've been talking with Germanna, with some folks at Germanna, FRA, and with the local school divisions, more so in Planning District 16, but almost all these have the capacity to be delivered virtually or easily adopted by a school system. Capacity will be somewhat of a concern. We were talking with Stafford the other day about what that would look like, but that's a potential project we have in the pipeline now. We're still talking around blue catfish. So for the folks who are not familiar, the blue catfish is invasive. Trying to figure out, there was some legislation passed a few years ago that put some money
that really is not much money at all. And in my opinion, has very minimal to little impact in creating an economy around blue catfish. Also, in my opinion, it was done completely backwards. There was no assessment of what the economic impact would be. So we've been talking with some localities in the Northern Neck and the Northern Peninsula to do a planning grant to assess that. Now, on the other side of that, the General Assembly in its infinite wisdom created a committee to study what that would look like. That committee was supposed to meet in 2024. It never did. There have been some staffing changes at Department of Ag, which is kind of spearheading the effort. That's all been put off to the end of the legislative session. We're hoping that they have some sort of idea of what they want to do, and maybe we can be the funding structure for that.
We have commitments. Our chair, or excuse me, our executive director is leading the coordination of that application. We have commitments, financial commitments from a couple localities already.
Yeah, and so we've engaged through Trent with Middlesex County, or well, he's engaged with Virginia Tech to get an idea of pricing around what an impact analysis would look like. But the idea is that that's something that we would include the Northern Neck and the Middle Peninsula because of the impact. Last project, and Kimberly, thank you for the introduction. We've been talking with UMW about a healthcare project. We had our initial call last week, just kind of working through what that would look like, but that would be in the workforce space. I think that's it.
Okay. Well, next item on the agenda is to adjourn the meeting and have lunch if you have time and you wish at Big City Chuck Wagon.
It's where the daily used to be.
Right on the corner by the traffic signal. Okay. Ian's invited us to join him at lunch. So if you'd like to, please stop in. Okay.
Jackie is the one who formally endorsed it. So.
They were they were a
It is
food
good.
truck in Farnham, close to where I live, and we visited frequently.
Next meeting, please, if it's not on your calendar, please put it on your calendar. Monday, April 21st, as Ian mentioned, at the Jepson Alumni Executive Center up in Fredericksburg. Thank you for coming today. As I said earlier, I know this is a trek, it's a time investment, but Go Virginia statewide doesn't work unless you folks participate. And your participation is very important. For you newcomers, this is kind of a complex, kind of out there program at times. I worked in economic development for like 25 years in Virginia, and I got into Go Virginia. It was kind of like, what is this thing? So don't feel like you're kind of out of your element. It will come to you after a little bit of time. And I would say that our staff is excellent in helping us through answering the questions that we have. So thank you all very much for coming today. We look forward to seeing you in April. And if anything comes up in the near future, the executive committee will be letting you know what's going on. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you. And we won't call for a vote. We'll adjourn by acclamation.